All right, it is 36 minutes past the hour here in the Imus Morning Program. Dr. Lawrence Rosen is one of the leading pediatricians here on the East Coast, and Deirdre Imus is the president and founder of the Deirdre Imus Environmental Center from Hackensack Hospital, and this is our initial edition of Dr. Doctor, although we only have one doctor here. But anyway.
I have an honorary doctorate.
You do.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, Dr. Rosen, how are you?
Very good, thanks. How about you?
I'm good. Mrs. Imus, how are you?
I'm great.
Okay. So there's been all this talk about childhood obesity. So I was saying to her, so why don't we get a pediatrician in here and find out if that's the case? So what are the statistics?
So there definitely are more kids and adults who are obese. We think that about a third of children today are obese.
That's like 1 in 6 then, right?
No, 1 in 3.
1 in 3.
You know, and the older you get, the higher the percentages go.
You mean the older you get as a child or?
Through adolescence into adulthood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how obese is what?
There's a definition defined by how heavy you are for how tall you are.
Okay.
So body mass index
Right.
we use.
The BMI?
Yeah.
Body
Right.
mass index?
Yeah.
Because isn't it, if it's 30% body fat, that's clinically considered obese.
Right.
And then there's many children overweight, like 25% to
Right.
27%
Right.
body fat would be considered overweight.
Okay. So in your practice, do you see a lot of fat kids?
I have a unique practice because we're focused a lot on integrative care and holistic care. So a lot of the families coming to us are already really nutrition savvy. So it's a little bit of a biased sample, but I can tell you just looking around, in our neighborhoods and where we go and talking to other pediatricians, absolutely more kids.
Okay. If you get a kid as a patient who comes in who's clearly overweight, what do you say to them?
Well, I have a discussion with them and their parents because usually it's not just the child, right? And we talk about lifestyle. I mean, we talk about, what are you eating? What's your fitness like? How much sleep are you getting? All these lifestyle factors. It's not one meeting. I mean, if I'm meeting them for a half an hour checkup, it's going to take time. But we engage with them. We develop a relationship and we develop a program looking at all those things.
What causes children to be obese or people to be obese? Is it simply eating? Do you know?
Well, that's a huge part of it. Literally, food is the primary issue, but it's never just one issue. It's in combination with their lifestyle, lack of real physical activity. It used to be when I was growing up, kids naturally just lived outside. They walked to school. Kids now, they're on electronics, on cell phones. Parents are afraid to have them go anywhere by themselves, so they're shuffled around in cars, carpools, and all of that. And there's very little literally activity. If you look at versus other generations, this generation is sedentary like old people. I mean, they literally are that sedentary. So that plays a big part.
And it starts with even kids in strollers. I mean, there's even talks now, you see kids being wheeled around everywhere, people driving if they're in a shopping mall from one store to the next store 10 yards down. We just have to move more.
Move more, but you really have to create that environment because the way the landscape is now set up, there are very few neighborhoods now with sidewalks even. So they're not friendly for kids to ride their bike in the neighborhood anymore, go take a jog.
It's also, in most cases, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
You can't let a kid walk to school anymore.
That plays a part in it too, where everyone's in a car. Even at schools now, kids won't carry their books in a backpack. They have
luggage.
The wheeling luggage. That's what they do now. They're just, rolling their stuff around.
The solution has to be community-based. It's not just like your house or your apartment. We all have. I mean, it's restaurants,
and
it's
toxins
schools, everything.
play a huge role, which there's a field now study with obesity, just like with autism and ADD and ADHD, that these babies now that are born pre-polluted, which all babies are now. There's so many chemicals, well over 287 of these chemicals. They play a role in the metabolical process, right, Dr. Rosen?
Right, plastics and other things which mess with your endocrine system and your hormone system.
Yes.
If you follow those kids out, they are more likely to be obese.
20 minutes till I'm talking with Dr. Lawrence Rosen. All right, back to the family comes in. The kid's overweight, clearly overweight. And you have a discussion, 2 or 3 perhaps discussions.
Yeah.
That seems would seem to me that it would be a touchy situation, wouldn't it?
Well, you have to be careful because you don't want to create an eating disorder problem. You
can't
know,
say kid's fat. Come on, shape up.
Yeah. I mean, that's not my style. You know, I'm sure there are people who do that. People need a wake up. No, no. You have to. I mean, there has to be a wake up call. And honestly, it's about the whole family. It's not just that kid. So.
But do you think? Because I wonder if doctors are being honest, because can be a sensitive subject with parents to have to go in there and say your child's obese or overweight, because a lot of parents could be in denial about that too.
Let's not start in by calling Dr. Rosen a liar here.
I didn't call him a liar.
Well, no, but it sounds to me like you're suggesting that he's coddling his patient.
All right, let me ask you differently.
He didn't call a kid a pig
maybe, maybe everybody else.
Does the AAP,
absolutely, I'm in. Absolutely.
Does the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend pediatricians bring this up?
Yes, they do recommend that we counsel. You know, part of the problem is there's a reluctance. We have 15, 20 minutes to cover a whole bunch of different things. So it's tough. You're not going to tackle this in one visit.
So do you recommend a way for them to lose the weight?
Yes, absolutely. We have to give them practical skills. You know, I tell the kids it's two things. It's easy. It's what you eat and it's how much exercise you get. That's the equation.
Do you recommend what they eat?
Yeah, we have detailed discussions about the kinds of fats, proteins, and carbs, the kind of nutrients they should get. We get into it has to be detailed. You can't just say, hey, eat healthy, go home.
Right.
In fact, you cannot follow the new government's food. It's not a pyramid anymore. It's more like a plate. They call it the My Plate.
Right.
And it's not something to follow because they don't distinguish between refined grains and whole grains.
Right.
They don't mention anything about cutting out sugar or sodas. They don't distinguish between good fats and bad fats.
The only plus side is, if you look at the plate, it's mostly fruits and vegetables, which is a start. But I agree with you. There's definitely, we have to break it down for people.
But they also recommend you eat dairy at every meal.
Right. And that's not right for all people.
No, it's not right for anybody. I don't agree with that. It's not right for anybody to eat dairy at every meal.
Should you ever
and then
eat
there's
dairy?
no mention of organic, and dairy is loaded with the wrong kind of fat, lots of hormones, lots of antibiotics, lots of dioxin, which is a cancer, a carcinogen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, no, I think that's an important point.
Do you recommend dairy?
Yes.
But didn't Harvard
organic dairy?
Didn't the Harvard medical school or whomever release their own plate the other day?
Yes.
Yeah. Walter Willett, who's a big nutritional guy there, came out.
How does that differ from the government's plate?
So it looks like a plate also,
Sure.
but it breaks down and says, look, it's not just, carbs. There's whole grains versus refined white grains. That's one of the biggest examples. So it tells you what kinds of proteins, fats, and carbs are healthy and not so healthy.
They actually will mention beans and nuts, not just red meat. They'll mention for people who want animal, fish, and
other
chicken,
sources of protein.
other sources, and they also integrate lifestyle and exercise, which the My Plate never